Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
South African Wouter Kellerman is a classically trained flautist, producer and composer. He performs primarily in world, roots and new age music. Wouter received a Grammy Award in 2014 for his album Winds of Samsara, a collaboration with Indian composer and producer Ricky Cage. His 2015 album Love Language received a Grammy nomination for Best Contemporary Instrumental Album and won a South African Music Award for Best Instrumental and/or Classical Album. His next project was a collaboration with the Soweto Gospel Choir, Symphonic Soweto, a tribute to Nelson Mandela. Their album won the 2018 South African Music Award for Best Adult Contemporary Album. In 2018, as part of his mission to work with and uplift children, Wouter collaborated with Ndlovu Youth Choir. Their African version of Ed Sheeran's Shape of You became an internet sensation, going viral with tens of millions of views on social media, and winning awards like the HMMA for Best Independent Music Video. The collaboration is part of Wouter's 2019 album In a Different Light. Wouter received his third Grammy nomination for Pangaya, his collaborative album with David Arkenstone, in 2021, and his fourth Grammy nomination and his second win in 2023 for his song Bayete with South African artists Nomcebo Zikode and Zakes Bantwini in the Best Global Music Performance category. Wouter has won 3 Grammy Awards and has had 5 Grammy nominations, 9 South African Music Awards and 13 nominations, and has had 3 number 1 in the US Billboard charts. In November 2024, the University of Johannesburg bestowed upon Wouter the prestigious Alumni Dignitas Award, an honor celebrating his remarkable achievements and exceptional contributions to the global music industry and beyond. In recognition of his contributions to South Africa's cultural heritage and his impact on the global stage, Tshwane University of Technology recently awarded him an honorary doctorate of art and design. The following interview with Wouter Kellerman was before the 2025 Grammy Awards, and you will hear us discuss his upcoming nomination. The release of this interview was after the 2025 Grammy Awards, and we can gladly announce that Wouter won his third Grammy for Triveni, his collaborative album with Chandrika Tandon and Iri Matsumoto, in the Best New Age Ambient or Chant Album category. Up next on Celeb Savant, live in studio at Solid Gold Podcasts in Randburg, Johannesburg, South Africa, is Wouter Kellerman. And joining me today, we have Wouter Kellerman. Wouter, thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
So great to be here. Thank you, Barrett, for inviting me.
Thank you for your time. Let's rewind. At what age, and you mentioned when we were chatting before we started recording that it was quite late, but at what age were you motivated to pick up your instrumentation, become creative, and how did that journey progress to where we are today?
Actually, when I was 10 years old, my parents took me to a symphony concert and they asked me which instrument I'd like to play. And I liked the idea of the flute because it's like singing. You're using your breath to express yourself. So I chose the flute, and it turns out it was a really good choice because the flute's actually the oldest instrument. The oldest known flute is 60,000 years old.
Oh, wow.
From the thigh bone of a cave bear. And so that's a flute that survived. So even before that, there must have been reed flutes. And language only started about 60 to 70,000 years ago. So flute playing developed alongside language. So it's actually a hugely instinctive human thing to play or listen to the flute.
Okay.
So I loved it from the first day. By the time I left school, I wanted to study music, but we didn't have money to send me to university. My parents didn't have money, but my other talent is mathematics. So I was offered a scholarship to study engineering. So that was the only way I could get to university. So I did that. I studied engineering, still playing the flute every day. And then after university, I worked back for the engineering company. They Anglo American posted me to the coal mines, which I wasn't very impressed with.
Yeah.
Spending my days underground. as a trainee engineer, and soon I left them and joined a military band part-time, half day, and the rest of the day I was doing software consulting and software writing, doing automation of big steel and coal plants. In the meanwhile, I got married, had kids young, but my plan was still just to do music. And so I decided to swap over to become a full-time musician. And within 6 months, my money had run out. And I had to go back to engineering. My wife and I split up and I got custody over the kids. So I was a single dad and I had to bring in enough money. And it was just impossible to do music full-time because I couldn't tour. I needed to be at home. So basically, long story short, I had to wait 20 years, still playing the flute every day. And I did allow myself 3 weeks a year to go overseas to do master classes with the best flute teachers in the world. And finally, at age 44, my daughter left university, my son left school, and things became a whole lot cheaper. And finally, I tried again, and this time it worked. And up to that time, I've done mostly classical music, but then I started crossing over to kind of world music and all my other interests. And it's been a dream ride since then. I worked myself to the bone because I waited so long for it. But it's been an amazing journey.
You referenced earlier that you were in a military band.
Yeah.
What is a military band?
A military band is part of the military, and you kind of march. You do a lot of marching music. And at the time, that paid pretty well because when I auditioned, I was immediately at the top level because of my flute level. So when I joined a military band, I was getting paid as much as my engineering salary was at that time.
Oh, wow.
And it was only half-day work. So it was really good, but it was definitely not my dream to play in a military band. And the South African military bands at that stage weren't great quality either. But it was just, for me, perfect way because the mornings we'd have some rehearsing, but I had a lot of time to practice by myself. And then in the afternoons, I would go and do software consulting.
And how long were you in the military band for?
That was about 4 or 5 years until my engineering company took off.
Okay.
And then things engineering became more lucrative. And it was just a better choice to do my engineering and then still play the flute every day, but not be in the band.
While you were doing your day job before going full-time into music, yes, you were doing and playing the flute every day.
Yeah.
Did you ever think at any point, oh, I'm going to transition full-time into music, or this is just my life at this point?
No, my plan was always. to do music full-time. And I kept on trying. Every few years, I'd swap over to become a full-time musician. And just never worked, financially, and also because I had to spend so much time at home. My kids were really important to me. And so I prioritized them, So I have a lot in common with many stay-at-home moms who put their careers on hold for their kids. And then finally, when the kids grow up, you have time to follow your own dreams.
You referenced that you were mainly classical and then you transitioned to other sort of genres. When you transitioned, was it easy to transition into those genres because you had a strong foundation from the classical, or was it quite challenging?
The improvisatory part was hard for me because from the first day when I was taught, we were taught to read. So I can read anything.
Read music?
Read music,
okay.
Yeah, read music. So just give me a page full of notes and I can play it very easily. But what was foreign to me was just improvising. My guitarist at the time was also my yoga teacher, and we were both terrible at improvising. So what we would do is we would do yoga together, and then we would improvise together, and we were both so shocking that you wouldn't you weren't embarrassed.
Yes.
You do something shocking, but he was doing something equally shocking.
Yeah.
So you didn't feel shy to experiment and try things. And then every now and then we'd hit a spot of gold just by accident. We'll just do all these shocking, very bad things. And then we'll come across something that worked nicely. And then we'll just record it, that little bit. And then carry on and until we hit something else nice. And then we'll put those bits, the good bits together, and that became our first compositions. And that's kind of how we went. So it's a very organic, natural, free process. And that, my first album took about 2 years of that just to create the songs. And then slowly over time, I became more comfortable with improvising and creating, because up to that stage, I'd never composed anything. And I never thought of myself as a composer. And then I just realized composition isn't this very high, impossible task. It's just, you just try things until you find something you like, and I discovered I could do it.
What's the difference between composition and improvisation?
It's actually the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing. A composition is probably just is a more carefully edited improvisation. So basically, we improvised until we find a nice line or a nice moment, and then we put those together and kind of put all those the good improvisatory moments together, and it becomes a composition.
So it's sort of like a piece of a puzzle.
Yeah.
And then you create a picture.
Exactly. When you improvise, some people are amazing at improvisation, and their improvisation is immediately a fantastic composition. But in our case, we had to sift through, create the composition from the improvisations.
And has that become easier over time, obviously?
Yes. Yeah, that's become much easier over time. My roots were in classical music, and I still, up to today, I find it easier to read something than to improvise. In my shows, I don't read anything. There's no music on stage. So I don't read much anymore. But if I go to a studio and you want me to record something, you'll be much more, you'll get better results if you give me some notes.
But this is something that you have not created. This is something that someone else should record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you create, how often is it for yourself, as in an instrumental? How often is it collaborating with other artists, as in singers? And how often is it that someone has asked you to come in and play on their music?
Yeah, a bit of everything.
Okay.
So I do a lot of collaborations because the flute is kind of a collaborative instrument. You need other instruments and sounds to make it interesting for more than 10 minutes. If you play solo flute, people are not going to listen for very long. So you always need other people. And it's beautiful because, you collaborate with someone and they take you to a space that you would never have got to without them. And so I love all the collaborations with other instrumentalists or a lot with vocalists. I've worked with choirs and singers, and my latest album is with a Japanese cellist and Indian singer. Often I'll do that, and sometimes we'll create our own music. Sometimes we'll cover something else. We'll take music that we love and we'll do our own fresh version of it. And then people also ask me to come and be a guest on their album or in their song, and then I'll just join them and give them my input.
Are there any that you find easier or of those three scenarios, or they're equally as balanced?
I find it pretty hard if someone wants me to join in their song. Okay. Because it's much more difficult because you have to get into their mind space first. And it could be people from very different genres ask me, from genres that I don't usually play in. And then I have to get into how do they think? Because I could just do completely my thing, but I have to adapt to them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love it because, like I said, it takes me to a place that I wouldn't have been to. It's not an easy process to do something. It's easy just to do something, but to do something that really works and to find that magic spot. For example, the last album, Japan, China, Japan, India, South Africa. To find that spot where we all gel was much more harder than we thought it would be. So it took us a while to get there, but it was so satisfying once we got there.
In what way was it harder? The sounds or the energies or combinations of all?
Well, so, for example, I would create the song with my producer friend, and then we'll send it across to the singer or the cellist we'll send it across for them to add their bits. And they might send something back that really doesn't work for me. Okay. Maybe it works for them, but it doesn't work for me, Then what do? Usually what we do is we'll edit their parts and say, well, how about this? Now I think we work. Then we'll send it back and they go, no, what have you done? This doesn't work.
Oh, okay. I understand.
And then they send their parts back and then I send their, and a lot of to and fro until you find the spot where everybody feels at home with what we created.
When you've got a new song that's not a cover with a vocalist, are you inputting or giving input on the words of the song, or is the vocalist solely writing the lyrics?
Yeah, so often the vocalist is writing the words. Usually I don't get involved with the words. I have in some rare occasions, but usually that's the vocalist. And often they already have a song or the basic parts of the song with a verse and a chorus and something. And then they'll ask me to do some extra lines or take the verse here or create a bridge or create some other parts for it. So that's usually when I work with singers, that's how it. Sometimes with choirs, I would work with them to develop their parts. But then often I'd get a producer to help with that. I always think the best, I know what I'm good at.
Yes.
And I know what I'm okay at.
Yeah, okay.
And when I'm okay at something, then I'll rather get someone who's really good at it to come and help. Because at the end, we want a world-class product, and it's very, very rare that one person can do engineering, production, arrangement, composition, perform, and pull off. You need another ear, in my case at least, another ear, another input, another more inspiration so it's a very collaborative process.
So now the flute, obviously, there's the societal observations of instruments in the sense that drums, guitar, piano. People who are on the periphery, who maybe enjoy music, maybe go buy CDs or stream or go to a concert every now and then, those are the instruments they know.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a situation or situations where people have thought, a flute's not really necessary, it's sort of not in the background? And have you ever had that sort of experience, and how have you made it seem that, okay, the flute is important?
We deal with that every day.
Okay.
Because people don't think of the flute. A lot of, even musicians don't even know about flutes. Like a lot of vocalists, they don't even know what you're talking about when you're saying you play the flute, So we do get that. And for example, even engineers, for example, you go and do a show somewhere. I'll go with my band, and my whole band sings, but I'm the front man. Sometimes they lead, and sometimes I lead, and we share. But the engineers would make the vocals super loud, even if they're doing backing vocals, and they'll put the flute there in the background where it belongs. So it's a constant fight. Even when I mix my albums, when I go to the mixing engineer, everybody's used to the flute as being a support backing instrument. You don't put it up front with the lead vocals, usually. So it's often a fight. And people also don't perceive a flutist as someone to come and headline a festival.
Yeah.
Or, come play at a festival even. They want vocalists. Sometimes at the jazz festivals, it's a very different story.
Yeah.
We deal with that every day, and it's a constant challenge. So it's very difficult also to make it commercially as a flutist. But on the other hand, it kind of sets me aside. It's something unique about me, so I'm not competing with all the other vocalists in the world.
And having been successful as you have over the period of time with the awards and the releases, has that challenge with people that you've worked with before gotten easier compared to people you haven't worked with before? They know, oh, we know who this guy is, so now we don't have to go through that conversation again.
Yeah, no, definitely. My mixing engineer, who normally mixes vocals, now knows that I want the flute super loud.
Yes.
Too loud for his ear. He knows. So that the conversation is becoming easier. And the people who have seen me perform, the corporates or the festivals or the promoters, they now know that I can move a crowd. So often we do, say, for example, a corporate, and people maybe someone asked for me, but the organizers of the corporates are like quite anxious about whether this is going to work.
Yes.
But once they've seen what we can do, then that conversation becomes easier. And it does help if you had some success, like Grammy-winning flutist. Okay, well, he can do something. We're not really too worried about him. And the festival might now go, well, previously they would have said, who's this flute player? We don't want flute here, Now they'd actually consider it. So that does help.
Okay, so when you moved into full-time creation music, did you ever think at that point, okay, I'm going to be a Grammy Award winner?
No, I didn't think it was possible, but I remember sitting at the kitchen table with my kids, and they said, Dad, what would you like to achieve? What are you going to go for? And I said 3 things. First I said, I just want to get started, because I had never used a microphone. I'd always played acoustically, and my classical concerts were all acoustic. And I didn't know how to use a monitor or how to use in-ears. So I went, at that stage, on a little side note, I went to a singer, a South African singer called Nia Nell.
Ah, yes.
She was doing very well. And so I said to her, I love your music. I'd love to perform with you. I'm offering my services for free. And because I also need to learn. And she said, okay, well, come over to my house. Let's see how we gel. And she liked what we did together. And then for the next 2 years, in the same 2 years when we were creating the new music, I was gigging with her and performing and learning how to be on stage, how to play in tune in that chaotic environment, where I don't think a lot of audience members realize how bad it sounds on stage. Often it's very messy. You have to cope with, with a drummer that's playing right in your ear and there's nothing else you can hear.
Oh, okay.
And you can't even hear if you're in tune. And it takes a while to adapt to that whole circumstance. But I said to my kids, to one day get a Grammy nomination, it just seemed like an impossible dream, but I'm putting it out there. And then my second goal was to represent South Africa at a big event, somewhere, which did happen eventually. Just a few years later, I played at the Soccer World Cup closing ceremony.
Oh, okay.
For 700 million people. That was like an amazing moment. But
in South Africa, the closing one in 2010. Okay.
Yeah, I was so lucky I don't know if a flutist has ever played at a closing ceremony, but there I was. And then my third goal at the time was because it was the time when Norah Jones, her album Come Away With Me, did so well. And I loved that album, and just the whole engineering, the sound, her voice. So I said one day would be nice to do a duet with her. Now that's the only one I haven't achieved yet.
Yes. Maybe you'll be meeting her at the award ceremony.
Yeah. She's also nominated. So
okay, there we go. So you've won 2 Grammys, and this year in 2025 you're nominated for your 3rd.
Yeah, this is my 5th nomination.
5th nomination, but you won 2.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in the past I've had 4 nominations and won 2, and now this is the fifth one. And we'll go, I don't know when this will go out, but we're leaving next week. And
does it ever get old, hearing that you've been nominated? Does it ever feel like, oh, again, or just like every time I'll be running around the room every time? Like,
no, it doesn't get old because I'm constantly releasing, and most of my releases don't make it. I've had 4 nominations, but I've had 10 albums and a lot of songs as well, separately. So it's incredibly special to get Grammy nominated. I'm even more excited than the first time. So I'm very excited. So
for the viewers at home who just sit and watch the Grammys from their chair, is what we see on television the same as what you experience, or how is it different?
Well, it's beautiful to be in the room when that happens, but there are 2 Grammy events. There's the pre-telecast, which is in the afternoon.
Okay.
And then there's a telecast at the evening. So the evening event, I only have a few Grammy categories.
Yes. That's one they show on television.
Yeah, that's the one on TV that got the pop and
yes.
The rap and some of the rock maybe and so the main category is best album,
best dance,
and all that.
Pop, whatever.
Yeah, pop mostly. But then the most important Grammys are in the afternoon. In my eyes, they're the most important because those are when the jazz, the classical, the engineering, the world music, some of the country and the composition. That's for me is the real, as a musician, that's where it's happening. And that's my favorite part of the event. So, and that does get telecast, but not on TV. You can log in online.
And but then it must be a long, long event for all those categories.
Yeah, that's, starts at 12 to 4 p.m. in LA time. So it's a long day. It's a long day. And then the main event starts at 5 to 8 p.m. in LA time, which is in evening in New York.
As you know, the awards, what's happening coming up after that? What's happening for the next period of time?
Quite a bit depends whether we win or not. Because if we do win, we get a lot of media. And there's usually a kind of a short window. I'll just say that. A lot happens whether we win or not. A lot depends whether we win or not. If we win, there's a short window where you get lots of media and you get a lot of corporates who want you to be part of their event. And that's where that's what makes the wheel turn. The corporate events is what keeps us going. If we win, we'll be immediately back to South Africa. Because this is where we do most corporates. And so if we don't win, that's also not such a bad thing because I'll take a little bit of a holiday. And then we have with the usual gigs after that. We've got the whole year, we've got gigs coming in and out.
Okay.
But for me this year, I've been so focused on my album and my stuff that I haven't really collaborated. I've had so many collaboration requests from artists that I admire, that I would love to, but I haven't had time. So this year for me is going to be the year when I'm going to do all those exciting things from people from completely different genres. And I'm really looking forward to that. So that's probably a lot of this year will be spent doing those collaborations.
You spend a lot of time creating. Do you ever just listen to music in your relaxing space?
I'm constantly listening. You'll find that musicians, wherever they are, they'll pick up. Like I was just mentioning, I can hear the pitch of the aircon.
Yeah.
So you are constantly thinking about music wherever you go. And in the car, there's music. And at the restaurant, there's music. And you're constantly picking up, analyzing melodic patterns, chord sequences, and you're listening. And then every now and then, I'll just sit back and really enjoy something. But I don't really have like a listening time, a block of listening time. Because I actually do a lot of listening because I'm also a Grammy a part of the Grammy voting community, so I get sent a lot of music. So every year I listen to a huge amount of, they call it for your consideration messages. So,
yes, I've seen that on socials. Yes,
yeah, people send me their music and I listen to it, and it's lovely because it's all this new music that you can listen to. But that's kind of more to inform my voting, to decide who I'm going to support, what music do I want to support. And so I do enough listening, so I don't actually just for fun go and sit and listen for an hour. You know, it's kind of just what happens during part of the day.
As part of the Grammy voting for the consideration, are you in specific genres, or it's just general and people just send you stuff?
A lot of people send me stuff. There's 14,000 Grammy voting members. There's a lot of people. So these are all creatives. They musicians, composers, engineers, producers, and that's why they say the Grammys, you voted by your peers. Most of the people are in the US, but they're everywhere in the world, and there's like more than 20,000 entries every year. You know, you're not going to listen to. It's impossible to listen to all the music, so you kind of listen to the stuff that people send you. And I vote in the categories that I feel I have expertise in. Yeah, so in my categories, which is quite wide because I'm classically trained. I do world music or global music. I do new age music. And so it could be quite a wide range of music.
Can you choose which categories you're going to vote? Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, you vote in the fields that you have something to say in.
Okay.
You know, I'm not going to vote, even though I listen to rap music or dance music, and I'll go dancing to dance music, but I don't usually vote in those categories because it's not part of my everyday listening. So I don't feel I'm qualified.
I love me a CD. I still budget for my CDs every month. For me, it's an energy exchange to say thank you to you guys for all the hard work that you do. I'm not sure if you're aware that CDs, vinyls, even cassettes are on a massive comeback. Last year alone in the UK, 5.9 million vinyls sold, the biggest since 1990. Also in the UK, there's a basket of products that they gauge exchanges on, and based on those product exchanges, which has to be a great amount, they analyze for tax purposes. And because of the upsurge of CDs are now back in that basket where they hadn't been for a number of years. The research is showing that it's the teenagers, the younger kids who are diving into the physical world, not the older nostalgic people. And then we also have these streaming platforms that people consume music on. What are your observations of the landscape at the moment?
I love CDs because it's just, or vinyls, because it's just nice to have something physical. And also to read about the music. Because like when we do CD, we always have little story about how the song got started. And very importantly, we have everybody that's part of that song. Every musician, every composer, the producer, the engineer, the story behind it, the emotional part, the words, everything is in that CD. And the problem with the streaming is that whole world gets lost. And it's very unfortunate and very unfair to a lot of these people, like a producer or an engineer or a composer, who actually made the song work, is not even mentioned. Nobody knows about it. And there's not enough space made in the streaming platform for people to go and investigate. So that's why I still like CDs, but not many people can even play a CD anymore. So it is a problem, but it's still nice to have that physical product. I mean, streaming is a great way to get your music out there, and it's a discovery platform. So it's very important to have my music on streaming so that people can discover it, and to have all the AI facilitate that, and predict what you're going to like. And so you don't have to do all that searching yourself and sift through 100 songs before you find one that you like. The AI process and the algorithm will help you to get there. I think the streaming is here to stay, but I wish they could find a way for people to do more discovery of who's actually on the song, and to discover them, go a little bit more in depth on the music.
It's interesting you say that because I was living overseas and not last year, the year before, I wanted to buy a CD player for my CDs and everyone was saying, there's no way you're going to find a CD player anywhere. You can't buy them. I went on to Take-A-Lot, hoping and praying for one good option. And there were hundreds of options for me to choose from. I had to narrow it down and narrow it down. And I was shocked because everyone was saying that you can't buy CD players anymore. Yeah. So you actually can. Yeah. Just to say that.
You can buy it. But for example, in your car, you know, you need a very old car to run a CD player, which is kind of sad. But that's the way of the world now. So you can still find your songs and play it through streaming. But I think it's worth it just for the packaging.
Yeah, exactly.
To buy a CD.
And the journey of the experience as well.
Yeah.
I was listening to your music, and quite a lot of the music is, I was feeling very sort of energetically healing.
Yeah.
With the energies and the auras, whatever you want to call it, because I'm a Reiki master and I was feeling all these different presences and emotional cleansing type of thing. Is that intentional when you create the music?
Yeah, my music has always been about spreading good energy because I just feel that's the music I love. You know, that music that when you watch a film and something terrible is just about to happen, that music, then that's the opposite of my music.
Okay.
I don't have anything terrible coming. Yeah. You know, my music doesn't spell disaster coming. You know, for me, the music tells you about how amazing life is. And it can be mysterious. And it can be mysterious. It's not just all super light. It can be deep and mysterious, but behind there's a positive message telling, you know, because that's who I think I am. And that's what I think the music. So that's kind of an automatic thing. But we also have made some very intentional healing music, like this last album that's just been Grammy nominated is an album that we specifically made with that idea that we want to heal with this music. But it's not that different from my other music. I think all my music is like that. Yeah. So that's why it was quite a natural progression to do this.
I love this game. I know if I had to ask you this question in 2 minutes, 10 years, 5 hours, I know your answer will be different every time. I'm saying top of mind. I'm not saying favorite. If you had to play 5 artists, and if you can think specific songs of those artists, once you're on the drive home after this conversation, who would those artists be? And if you can think of specific songs, what would those songs be? Why are you laughing?
Wow.
Just top of mind.
My favorite artist of all time is the cellist Jacqueline du Pré and the Haydn. So this is classical. So the Haydn symphony, so Haydn concerto in C, I think. First movement, that would be one. Norah Jones, Come Away With Me. Mary Makeba. I loved that song when I was a child. I actually played it in the car for my kids the other day, called The Naughty Little Flea. It's a very little...
Oh, I haven't heard that song. I need to listen to it. Okay.
Mary Makeba, Leonard Cohen is magical. There's a song of his called The Tower of Song. One more. I think something... Ishmael Lowe. I don't remember the song now, but I love his vibe. You know,
cool.
West African music. My music taste is all over. It goes, you know, from South Africa to West Africa to classical to roots. But I have to say, roots is kind of the word that covers everything. You know, it's roots music, and I don't believe music has to be complicated to be beautiful. I think there's beauty in simplicity. I'm very much different from a lot of the jazz musicians like that. I mean, I love jazz and I enjoy it, but some of the jazz becomes an intellectual exercise. And for me, it's more what moves your heart.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be, it can be complicated. Some of my own compositions are harmonically very complicated, but it doesn't have to be complicated. For me, where's this, Blue Bayou? What's Linda Ronstadt, Blue Bayou? Yeah. Very simple song, but it moves you.
So the podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message, what would you like to say?
I think music takes people on a journey, and it takes you on a journey to places that you would never have been, and to cultures and peoples. And I think it has the power to bring us all together. And my message to people would be just to look for love and positive expectation in their hearts. And I think if you look for it, that's my experience, it's a much happier place to be.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.